Hello, folks. Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. Hopefully, this makes it on YouTube. We'll see. If it's too hot, we use any kind of buzzwords. Then I'll keep it on Nino's Corner.tv. I'm here with Peter Colla, who just became a really good friend of mine. I mean, instant friend, and one hell of a cook, I gotta say. One hell of a cook, Peter, and he's an author of two amazing books. I'm holding one of them right here. Heal Yourself for God's Sake, Volume 1, and got the other one here, Peter. Hold on one second. Quantum Ascension. Quantum Ascension. And you can get these on Amazon, right?
Yep.
Right, Peter?
Yes, sir.
And I have not started reading them yet, but I know I've already had 2 or 3 sessions of therapy with you. They've been amazing. We've been talking about spiritual attacks. We talk about quantum healing healing on a quantum level, why that's so important, understanding basically the true nature of our reality and how we are so much more in control than we think we are.
Yes.
And you really have a way of breaking it down, and you're a highly intelligent guy. Just by your blogs that you have. What's the name of your blogs, Peter?
paulorpeter.com.
paulorpeter.com. I suggest everyone go over there, and this guy's one hell of a writer. And I'm a writer, I can write, but you're on another level, Peter, so I appreciate that.
Thank
you. So I sat down with you. I've been dealing with a lot of social anxiety, PTSD, and I thought I was just going to go to another therapist and sit down with them and be like, all right, let's, talk about your problems type of thing.
Yeah.
Far from that's not what I got with you. You broke it down on a scientific level and a spiritual level. So I'll let you have the floor. I mean, whatever you want to begin with.
Well, first of all, let the audience know that I've been a practicing physical therapist for 35 years. And I've treated literally thousands of patients. In that time frame, I have seen a complete, almost like a dissection of the healthcare industry and a steady decline when it comes to what we are allowed to treat, what we're told to treat, and what we are supposed to treat, as compared to not so much the causes of issues and sicknesses, but the actual treating just the symptoms. And in my own practice, I steadily I just found that to be horrific, because I always wanted to treat the patients the best as my ability and help them to try to heal. And that seemed to be less and less the issue. So 10, 15 years ago, I had a sort of near-death experience and kind of woke up and realized that God is a lot more involved in this stuff than we give him credit for. And just as a matter of fact, we were often taught in school, and they're still taught to this day, that you're not supposed to inject God at all into the healthcare scenario. You kind of do it at your own doom. They oftentimes warn you. So but you know what? I just started doing it. And when I started doing it, God opened my eyes to literally miracles and manners in which to treat by injecting God in the spiritual situation or the spiritual realm into the therapeutic scenario. And it allowed people to actually take a hold of healing and set themselves free from the prisons that this healthcare industry has basically put us into.
You've witnessed miracles. And I know before you started injecting God into your therapy sessions, didn't you also come across some NDEs or people that had near-death experiences or actually crossed over to the other side? And 15 in a row, right? In like a matter of days?
Well, that's how God kind of did it with me. He delivered all these, practicing for that long, you see all kinds of things. I mean, you talk to any doctor, he'll tell you the same thing. There's stuff that always comes into your office, but for some reason, I had first this patient come into my office. He had died 7 times on the operating table, and he could remember all 7 times. Without getting into the specifics of him, you're talking about now, this was 25, almost 30 years ago, but then right in a row, I got 1, 2, 3, the next 15 patients in a row all died. and had died of various causes. One was in a car accident. She had been ejected out through a window and she had died out on the street, and they revived her. She remembered the whole ordeal. All of these different things. What is God trying? I wasn't even asking then, what is God trying to tell me? But it's just that he opened my eyes to this whole different venue and this whole different aspect of our life. And then later on, there was other things. People would come into my
But
office.
they remembered everything once they crossed over, or did they
Oh, yeah.
not?
Oh, they remembered. As a matter of fact, I even had one boy who died, and he went to hell, and he remembered every bit of it. And
You were telling me that. So this kid that died, you said he died on a staircase, right?
Yeah,
Or
he
something.
he overdosed in his own home. He specifically told me the story. I mean, this was out of his words, and he's crying as he's telling me this. And this wasn't one of that 15. This was a different case, but still later. He died of an overdose. He knew he was dying. He knew he was overdosing. And so he tried to get out of his house, and he died upstairs in his house. And he knew that if I don't get outdoors, I'm a dead man, because I'm not going to make it to, I got to warn somebody. But he died upstairs, and they didn't even find him till 15, 20 minutes later. And they basically had him in the what do you call it, in the ambulance, with the sheet over his head, going back to the hospital. And they just weren't even they didn't even have the lights on, because, hey, this guy's been dead for 20 minutes. They might have tried to revive him, but nothing happened. And so basically he sits up in the ambulance. 20 minutes later, he said it scared the heck out of the ambulance drivers, because they had for him, in his experience in hell, it felt like he was there for a month. And he basically described what it's like, and how the doom and everything that positive in his life, everything, like any kind of relief, any kind of peace, any kind of goodness, any kind of harmony, even light evaded. There was nothing dry. Everything was dry. Everything was painful. Everything was cold, and at other moments it was extremely hot. He said, and then he could hear this doom coming, just this people screaming all around him, and he could hear this boo, 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 and he knew it was coming for him. And in desperation, he just lifted up his head, and he remembered from his youth. He couldn't even say the word, but he just, Jesus, help me. And he could get that word, with that one word out, and boom, he was back in his body. And so, this kid is in tears telling me this stuff. So it's not like, hey, he's not making up a story here.
Yeah. Like 107 says, it's when you enter hell, there's a sign that says abandon all hope here.
Yeah.
And that, I just think hell, however you want to translate, or however you want to describe it, is just the void of God. It's just, there's
everything
void of God.
Everything that is godly has been removed from
Right.
demons when they were cast out. So they only have the lack of that's the whole basis of spiritual therapy. You're dealing with diseases, dis-ease. So your body is placed in a position of dis-ease. And one of the main situations that I learned as I'm going along, and I started injecting God into the therapeutic procedure, is that a lot of things I started revealing themselves, especially in the healthcare industry, about how we're lied to about everything. And I was beginning to see this kind of diabolical situation in my own practice. Years ago, we were told, when I learned my education in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that our care, anything that happens to us, we are afflicted with. We come down with a sickness. We have heart attacks. We have things like that. But somewhere along the line, around 2000, the 90s, it started to change. And everything was, you have this, you're predisposed for it. You have a diagnosis code that defines who you are, what you have, in their opinion, and what you get. And if it doesn't fit in that code, you don't get it. And who's in control of that? Pharmaceutical, the insurance industry, AKA the system. And I just said, screw it, I'm not doing it. I'm going to treat the people with what they need. And the more I did, the boy, did they start pushing back. Oh man, it
You
was
you also witnessed miracles, right? In your
oh
in your therapy, you witnessed actual miracles.
yeah.
I think one you said was a relative of yours that
Yeah, the
um
lady broke her leg and stepped off a horse and snapped her leg in half. And
and it was
I can,
only until after she was the one that got you to start injecting God into your therapy, right? She
no,
was the
no,
one. Was she the
that
one that made you the believer of this, or what was it?
she basically was. I had witnessed a lot of these different miracles along the way. It wasn't until I had my own sort of life, near death experience that I started injecting God into the situation. And then at that point, he started revealing to me what happened in the past. Also like, you remember this, you remember that, you remember this, and it started to be explained to me. But the way it works is, it's almost like you go back to school. It's not like God downloads all this information. You learn it kind of on the job. I went when I injected God back into my therapeutic situation. I didn't know what to do. I just did it as best as I could. So at first it was silent prayer. I would pray for somebody, and then I would wonder, well, can they tell the difference? Does it really help? And these kind of questions kind of went on and on as you went through the practice. And in different aspects, when you learned this, then God would give you some more. He'd teach you about water, then he'd teach you about light, then he'd teach you about sound. And it took years to go through these different classes. I had people step into my life. I had this woman, this beautiful blind woman, who just came into my office one day, and she didn't even know why she stepped in there. Her name is Vicky, and she said, God told me to come here. And she goes, "Oh, you're a therapy place? Oh, I see, that being blind," she said, "I could see that you have godly stuff here. I could just see it. I could sense it." She goes, "I want to treat here." And she ended up being a patient, staying there for a long time. And I learned so much from her, how people, they can see with their senses. Blind people can actually see more sometimes than we can, especially in the spiritual realm.
Right.
And so I started learning about the spirit side of things, and how really primarily, oh, there's your dogs. Yeah. So one of the main things with spiritual therapy that I learned is that one of the main lies that we are told from our childhood, that physicality is everything, that our mind is in control to a degree, our body, and our spirit is this little teeny little thing that sits here in our heart, or maybe on our shoulder, whispering things in our head. That's the furthest from the truth. The physicality is so inconsequential and so momentary and so small, especially in the quantum realm, that the distances between even the atoms, the protons, the electrons, are so vast that there's this great space in between. So our physicality is limited to space and time. Right here, even as I speak these words to you, they're already in the past and they no longer exist. So, but the words vibrate out into the universe, and they last literally forever. That goes on, and that's scientifically been proven. Take that now and now exaggerate above that and look at your belief system. Whether you believe that something's right, whether you believe it's wrong, whether you believe it's true, whether you believe it's false, or whether you're attracted to it or repelled by it, whether you want God in your life or you despise him. It is infinite. So if you take that same degree of proportion, small physical, large mind, infinite belief, and apply it to your health, you have control and power over your health in the same way. So people who only address their physical ailments with physicality, pills, exercise, etc., will only have a physical result. When they put their mind into it and they start applying positive reinforcement, which we know works, positive belief, positive, oh, I feel better, no, not feel, okay, I have 10 reps today with my exercise. Yesterday I only could do 4. That's 6 improvement. So that's the mind. Counting, all of that. But when you believe that you can get better, and somebody tells you that, PTSD, perfect example, you'll never get rid of it. Bullshit. That's bullshit. You will get rid of it, because if you believe you can, because your belief is infinitely stronger than so now take that same principle and apply it into the therapeutic procedure. Let's see if we can create therapeutic procedures that not only have physicality, but mental reinforcement, and use your belief, and boom, you're going to have an almost infinite result.
It's kind of like, like what you explained to me, like we are all on an atomic level, empty space, but what's in that space? And that has to be, it's consciousness, or what we say, the spirit of God, because you explained to me an atom, and can you explain an atom? So I'm sure most of my audience knows what an atom is, but just kind of explain it the way you explained it to me, with the basketball being in Chicago and the ping pong ball being in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's what when I was in school, that's what we had this physics class, of course, in college, and they talked about the fact that the spaces in between the atoms are so vast that on a quantum level, that if you take and you made the proton, or we'll use the proton as example in helium, and you take the proton and make it the size of a basketball, and you set it in Chicago, an electron would be in St. Louis.
And that's what spins around the proton.
That spins around the proton. So think about that. A basketball sitting in Chicago, 800 miles away. Now they have since, they change this stuff all the time. They made the distances a little short, smaller. It doesn't matter. There's a vast amount of space. And not to mention the actual physicality that is of the proton is these little strings that bounce around inside, and they're much smaller than the actual proton itself. So if you have the basketball, the actual physicality of the basketball is probably like this little string that's bouncing around inside. So it's enormously small compared to the distances that between them. But what holds it together? Gravity? A basketball-sized thing in Chicago can hold a ping pong ball. I started questioning this stuff, because here I am practicing and finding out that the spirit has such an enormous effect on people. I'm seeing these miracles. So I'm a questioning guy. When you don't know, I always, as I started injecting God, you have not because you ask not. So I ask. I'm always doing that. I ask all the time. When I write these writings, I ask. I said, God, you said, I have not because I asked not. So I'm asking, why? What is that? Show me. And he does. He shows me in signs. He shows me in articles. Suddenly, boom, something will come on TV that exactly explains what I'm asking. It's just because I'm listening and I ask. And in the same way as telling you, David, if you have a symptom, if you have something that has attacked you, a symptom is a sign that something's attacking you, okay? The symptom, which is what the medical practice primarily, I know I'm in it.
So the symptom is a spiritual attack manifesting itself in my body.
The symptom is the alarm system.
The alarm system
is your alarm system that tells your body something's happening to you, okay? It's a reaction. The whole medical field, mine included, treats symptoms. They give you things for pain. They give you things for anxiety. They give you things for swelling. They give you things for imbalances in your liver, whatever, name it up. But those are all symptoms that something is attacking you from the outside. Most of the time caused by poisons, because of the path we've chosen to take in our life. We stick ourselves in the wrong place. We stuck our feet in the wrong pile of poop out in the yard, and now we have to pay the consequences for it. But some of them are not always our fault. Sometimes we're getting poisons delivered in our food, in the form of a jab that we have to take, or our baby has to take, because it needs to have that jab when it's just born, even though it doesn't have an immune system yet. We know that scientifically, but give it a jab,
Common sense.
Yeah, it's common sense. And so I started asking myself, why? Why do they insist that patients, bilateral carpal tunnel. Okay, I learned in school, if you had it at two hands, it comes from your neck. So when I'd have a patient walk in, they got two carpal tunnels, I call the insurance company and say, I want to treat the neck. At first they say, fine. Later on, about 1990, say, no, you stick with the hands. By 2010, they said, or 2005, they said, if you treat the neck, we'll take the patient away from you. By about 2012, they said, you know what? We don't even want you treating our patients anymore. We're taking our contract away from you because you don't tell you. You know what? Screw them. I don't care. You know, I'm going to treat the patients the way they need to be treated. And I'm going to give them everything they need. I have a patient come to me and say to me, she goes, I don't know, but I have to have chemo because the doctor diagnosed me with this thing. I have nothing wrong with me. And even he said that there was no C word in my blood. Then why are you taking the chemo? Because he said I have to, preventative. And it's like, and her husband, he's the one who's in the wheelchair, you know, and she takes care of him. She's as healthy as a horse. And he's crying because if she goes downhill, who's going to take care of him? And
it's kind of like my dad having 18, the doctor's prescribing 18 bottles of medicine for this guy. One medicine after another, after another, after another. In case this side effect happens, here's this medicine. In case that side effect happens, here's this medicine. They're drug pushers. That's all they are. I have no respect for most doctors out there these days, the way it is today, especially what happened in 2020.
I hate to say it, but I'm right there. You know, I'm embarrassed even for the first, 20 years of my practice because I treated the way I was taught. Okay, the doctors are taught in the university. The universities are sponsored, and everything's dictated by the big pharma, aka the Rockefellers, and they basically decide what they can treat, how they can treat, and from what angle. aka the oil, the crude oil based medicine. By the way, crude oil is a toxin. Okay, you put the crude oil in your body, it's toxic for your liver. So you might take one pill for your blood pressure, which causes you side effects. Are not the maybe effects, they are the side effects, like the side dish at a dinner. You go to the dinner and you're going for the steak dinner. That's the main course. That's what you expect to eat. But you get your side dishes. Okay, they're not there so that you can maybe eat them. Well, if you want them, you can buy them, but they're just there for you to view. You might get them. You might no. They're there for you. The side effects you're gonna get. It's just a question how long. And usually the one side effect, another attack to the body, you get another symptom, suddenly your cholesterol goes up, and now you've got to be treated for cholesterol. Then you got a lipidemia, and you got to do that, and then you've got diabetes, and you got to take care of that, and before you know it, you've got 18. I treat patients every day that have 3 pages of medicine. And half of them, they don't even know what they're taking them for. And sometimes the doctors are long dead that prescribed them, yet they still keep taking them year in, year out. It's like ridiculous. So people can walk away from any issue by basically first putting their eyes on it and realizing that it is an attack. Then
attack, these are spiritual attacks in your belief, right? And I'm with you on this. This is, but I believe that first and foremost, this is spiritual attacks. Am I right in saying that?
First and foremost, they're all 3. They're physical, which is a little bit. They're mental, which is more. That's the number of times you've exposed yourself to them. And they're spiritual. They're demonic. They have an intent. There's a curse there. It actually comes in the form of a spirit. Now that's where you got a lot of power, because when you look to God, he gives you all the answers. It's right there. As I was looking at this, I'm thinking, my God, pick up your mat and walk. I walked up one time to a patient. I accidentally walked to the wrong patient, and I said, all right, you're getting up today, Mr. Johnson. It's time for you to stand up. And I pulled him over, and I pulled him up onto his feet. He's walking on the thing, on the parallel bars. And I walked back over and I started put his, data into the notes, and the director comes over and says, "What are you doing?" I go, well, "You said to walk Mr. Johnson, so I walked him." She goes, "That's not Mr. Johnson, that's Mr. Dean." She goes, "Mr. Johnson is over there. You grabbed the wrong person. Mr. Dean over there, he hasn't walked in 5 years. He broke his back. He's paralyzed from the waist down." They told him.
That's crazy.
I wasn't praying for him. All I said is, "Hey, no, you're going to walk now." I pulled him up and he walked. You know what? That Mr. Dean wouldn't let me he wouldn't let anybody else treat him for the next 3 weeks that I was at that place. I was doing a filling in for a pregnant person. So I was working at this nursing home. So he said, you're my therapist. I had him walking around with a walker. His body, your body heals. But if you believe that you are whatever, you're a cripple, you're going to be a cripple.
I know what I'm naming this one.
We are not anything. We're nothing except what God created us to be. Everything else comes from the outside. And I don't care what these people say, what these so-called professors say, with their high learning. The higher these experts are, the more in the pocket of the cabal they are too.
Right.
They're
all under that system, that system of control.
Yeah. So the people, that's why I wrote these books. First of all, I wrote the first book, Heal Yourself for God's Sake, because all I did was list all these different miracles so people could read it. I just would give them away. I self-published. I said, here, this is what I do. This is how I was helped other people. And then I started really asking the questions. How does this work? How does it work? What exactly happens when we ascend? What is going on when we take these truths into us? What happens when we walk out of the valley? As we start to learn the truth and we walk out of the valley, as it were, spiritually, and we look back and suddenly we have a view of what's going on behind us, and everything starts becoming clearer. You see it yourself, and you're in your own life. You're boxing, you're doing your thing, and you're partying and you're having fun and all these different things. And then one day you realize something's just not right here. And so you start to take your first step to truth. And when you step on that first truth and you get a little bit of a view back into your life and back into the valley in which you were at, you realize, wait a minute, that isn't exactly what they were telling me. There's things they've been lying to us about. You report about them all the time, all these lies in the politics, in education, with the jab, with all, in the military, everything, and this whole matrix that they've created for us that doesn't fit. Okay, it just doesn't fit. I started asking my questions. I love astrophysics, so it was my elective in college. Even though I was going to be pre-med and I knew all of that stuff, so I studied astrophysics. What never made sense: the moon is 186,000 miles away, and it's strong enough gravity to pull the oceans supposedly into tides. Okay, I'm not quivering but then you get these astronauts that sit in the space station and they can let their little pen float, and the pen doesn't move towards the moon and it doesn't move towards the earth. It just sits there. Well, wait a minute. If the gravity is strong enough to pull the ocean, why is it not moving the pen?
Oh. None of this makes sense, does it?
It doesn't make sense. But you know what the thing about it is?
That's something, not even a flat earther has brought to my attention. That's a good one, Peter.
And I'm not saying I'm not saying that you have to believe that the flat earth, it doesn't matter.
But something's not right.
All I believe is what I see. Okay, and when I see these things, I start investigating, I start checking into it, and I start reading the Bible. And for the first time, I started reading the Bible. I reread it and reread it. And I just every day a little bit, and And these questions started popping up, and these spiritual truths, like what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. If you survive an attack, then you need to start cleaning up the mess after the attack. What is the meaning of David slewing Goliath? How, I just sent you that article just a couple of days ago. You're a David, buddy. I mean, you're a David. You're slewing giants out there, and every one of us can do the same thing.
Everybody has that power.
Every truth we realize, when we realize that these sicknesses, these issues that we're suffering from, the people who are suffering, the people who have issues that are being afflicted with these issues, instead of just taking it, they turn their attention onto what is happening to them. A light goes on. And one of the primary spiritual truths right at the beginning of the Bible, when the light causes darkness to flee. I love that one because it's true. You turn on light, darkness flees. It doesn't overpower darkness. It's not sometimes stronger, sometimes less stronger, like Hollywood would want us to believe. No, it always flees. So when you turn the light on to the direction that the spirit is attacking you, that light takes away the spiritual power of that sickness, and it only leaves then the physical. And you can easily defeat the physical with the weapons that God has given us in the physical. He gives us everything we need. Scriptures back that up. All things are possible to those who believe. Two or more. Jesus himself, if you just believe, you can do anything. He didn't say any good thing. He said anything. You can pick up that mountain and throw it in the ocean. Basically saying that you have power over this physicality like you can't believe, but you gotta believe. You gotta pick up these weapons that God has delivered. And that's what I explain in these books through different, I learned it the same way. I learned it in just step by step. Okay, how does water apply? How does sound apply? How does smell apply? How can we use the
before we end this interview, can you go into the water and explain to people how water is affected by intention, which a lot of people know this from the Japanese scientist.
Yes.
That, that's well documented, that's out there. But
we
are all made up of water, and the intention that we receive from others or we believe in ourselves affects our bodies because it's been proven in a lab.
When I do spiritual therapy, just like I've been doing with you, the first step is believing that you learning that there are lies out there, and the actual truth about our spirit and our body. We have perspective there. So you learn the perspectives and get it in line with that. Actually, is in line with the Word of God. Then the second thing is then you start mobilizing. Okay. Once I believe I can heal, once I believe, then I can start taking the weapons and cleaning up the mess that these attacks have come. So the essence of sickness is that the sicknesses, they attack us. If we survive, okay, that's a pretty big, all these attacks are meant to kill us. If we survive, and that we drive them away, unless they just keep attacking, because you just keep taking it. Diabetes is a perfect example. But anyways, normally they come in the forms of attacks. You have a moment, then they go away, whether it's a break or an arthritic type attack or whatever. So they come in the form of attacks, and then you're left with the mess. It looks like a battlefield in your body. Poisons accumulate because of your own reactions. You swell, and so you're accumulating waste products. Tension causes your back to get all tense. So you need to clean up that mess. Okay, so you use godly instruments. One of the most godly instruments is the most abundant thing that God has given us: water. Water is a wonderful, I basically almost initially in every one of my therapies, I tell people, I'm going to put you on a water treatment situation. So Masaru Emoto basically proved through, and he's a secular scientist, He's dead now, but he proved that water has the ability to transfer the intentions of us people through them. So basically, to make a long story short, what he did is he took various beakers of water, and one of them he would bless, the other one he would curse, and all the time, not some of the time, all the time, there would be a physical, measurable, and visible effect in the water. Visible meaning they would flash freeze the water, and of the cursed water would have these dark, almost gloomy crystals. But in the pure, or in the one that was blessed, they would be like rainbows, snowflakes. They were beautiful to behold. Students would smell the beakers, and they without knowing, blind testing, they would know which one smelled good and which one smelled bad. And they even put rice into them, and the one that they put it in the blessed water, it would grow and turn green and would smell beautiful to smell, and the other one smelled like death, and it would kill the rice. And that's a very brief description, but the intention, that's intention in water, I believe, is in the spirit. God has created water to do that, to transmit the intention, or as it were, the light vibrational positive energy in water. So in our physicality, we're good 80. Science says 65%. I believe it's higher than that. I had a lost loved one, and when they gave me her essence after
ashes,
yeah, she was a fraction. She was a 130-pound woman, and I could hold 5 pounds of ashes. Come on, she's not eight. That's not 65%. That's that's eight. Fine. But I really believe that the water in our bodies conducts the very thoughts, the very intentions of things through our body to our mind, because they happen instantaneously. They will tell us in science that, oh, that's all chemicals, and there's a chemical in your fingertip, and then it goes into another nerve, blah, all the way up into your brain. Chemical. But it happens immediately. If you've got a negative intent to yours, it here and you feel it. But if you have a positive intent, somebody's rubbing your hand, your wife's rubbing your hand, you feel it also here. Baby, when it gets hurt, it reaches his hand instinctively to mom, and mom kisses the hand. And love, that tissue feels that love and feels that intent, and the pain goes away. I mean, that's a common, and everyone who has children knows that. Someone just tried to call.
Oh, don't hang it up. There you go.
Yeah, sorry.
So Peter, let's end it here. I want to get you back on the show again. I want to have segments with you because you're so
Absolutely
amazing, man. I'm so blessed to know you. I appreciate you, your wife Anna. You guys are lifelong friends now. And I love talking to you, man. You just blow my mind. You're stimulating. And here's your books, Quantum Ascension. People can get them where? On Amazon, right?
Right now on Amazon, but I'm going to switch here soon. I don't.
So right now they can get your books on Amazon. Heal yourself, for God's sake.
Yeah, maybe you could put a link into your in your thing if you could.
Well, it's just to Amazon, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm still kind of new to all this YouTube stuff. You got to give it. But where can people find you, Peter? Where can people?
They can find me on paulerpeter.com, or they can email me if they want a copy of my book. All they have to do is email me posture.is.everything@gmail.com and request and I'll send them. All they have to do is pay for the shipping and handling extra, but I'll send them a signed copy. I don't care. I just
You're
just
doing amazing work, sir, and your voice needs to be heard. And when's my next therapy session, by the way? Was this one of them? Is this counted?
No, we need to get, it's stair step, brother. I mean, even for your readers, you can't learn Kung Fu. Like I told you, you can't learn Kung Fu in a single lesson. Even for a super athlete like you got to learn it a little bit at a time. So you get the basis to start with, and then you learn a move at a time. And every time you learn another move, and then boom, before you know it, you're an expert. And it's the same way. It's the way I was taught.
No,
It
you're
took me
right.
10
It's like
years
learning
to
the
learn this
guitar or
stuff.
anything. It's continuous. It's continuous.
Yeah,
So Peter, I'm
and
gonna
I'm
call you
learning.
tonight. Let's set up a session over FaceTime and let's do this because
Yeah, brother.
I love you, man, and I'm gonna be out there to give Anna my love, and I'm gonna come out and eat some more of your food.
And whenever you want, I've got a whole bunch of Italian dishes. I'm Italian, so I got a lot
And
of
I
Italian.
gotta say this to everyone out there listening to the audience. This guy is an incredible chef. And I'm talking, you could taste every ingredient in your food. I mean, it's just, and you said, how do you cook it? With love and intention, right? Intention
Yeah,
and love. That's
true. We take off our shoes, we sit there in the kitchen, and we pray we basically bless the water when I cook bread. You had tasted my bread. I bless the water. People think, how do you make your bread? It's like, it's simple. 4 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, a little bit of yeast, and you mix it. I mean, but they're like, my bread doesn't taste, because you got to bless it. You got to say thank you to the water. So the water comes in with that intention, and simple as that.
well, thank you, Peter. And anybody, hey, go to Amazon, get his book, Heal Yourself for God's Sake, and Quantum Ascension by Peter Colla. And thanks, Peter. I'll give you a call a little bit later today.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You take care, brother. Love you.
Love you too.